So friends, why are we perfectionists in our art? We're going to talk about that. And we have an actual professional here today. You can't see her yet. You can't hear her yet, but she's here. She's a mental health professional. Her name is Tammy K, and she's also a watercolor artist. And so that intersection is super exciting for us. Super exciting. You know, perfectionism and art, in my humble opinion, are like oil and water in so many ways. In so many ways. Perfectionism doesn't bring me joy. Maybe it brings you joy, but I'm curious. We'll talk about it more. We're going to talk about strategies, 3 strategies for becoming an anti-perfectionist. And Tammy and I are each going to share some never before seen exercises. I hate that word, but exercises to help you really lean into being that anti-perfectionist. So let's get Tammy up on the screen here and let's start this chit chat because she's got a lot to talk about. Hi, Tammy.
Hi.
Hello. And so just to prove that we are going to be painting, friends, here's our painting tables. But yeah, so good. So Tammy, why don't you take a moment, just introduce yourself, let people know who you are and what your deal is, why you're here with us today.
Sure. Well, I am Tammy K. As you said, I am a mental health therapist. That is my trade. But I also dabble in watercolor, and
I've more than dabble. Sorry.
Holy. That's me being, sometimes we get a little bit insecure about the things, but so I am trying to meld those two together. If you ever check out my YouTube channel, Tammy K, you'll see that I do watercolor paintings, a lot of florals, but I want to weave in the mental health ideas, self-care concepts, because, well, first of all, no, I started doing it not because I saw that there wasn't a lot out there on it. I discovered that later, but because as I started to paint and I started to paint for myself, I deal with anxiety. And in the last 1.5 years, I dealt with depression, which was really new for me. I dived deep into watercolor and it really helped me get through it. So I realized that I want to share that with people. I want to encourage people, but this idea of imperfectionism, it kept coming up for me all the time. And I know that that's because I deal with imperfectionism in my life, in all the other aspects.
I actually wanted to talk a little bit about this one point about how I am the quintessential anti-perfectionist. And Tammy, would you say you're more in the perfectionist direction when it comes to your art?
Yes, I testify to that.
I agree.
I hate it, but it's true.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I recall my art teacher friends, you know that I have talked about her, Sue Hand. She's got the best name on the planet. And she always used to say about me, I started art lessons when I was like 11. And she always used to say from like day one, right? She had me draw not a ceramic bunny, a cement bunny. It was like this really cool, like, Edwardian garden sculpture type thing. And she pulled it out and she slammed it down on the drafting table. And she's like, draw it.
Yikes.
Yeah. And I'm like 11. I'm holding a pencil that doesn't have an eraser on it. It's not yellow. I'm like, what's going on? I knew literally nothing. But even from that day, I was like, she's like, draw it. And I'm like, all right. And I just, I think I was born without some receptors or something, because I have always just been a dive in kind of gal with most things in my life, but most definitely art. And so Tammy, how do you differ when you started your art journey?
Well,
I saw that.
Yeah, I made a face. I had no idea. Yeah, I think that I'd be the opposite of that, in that I know that in my life, I deal with social anxiety. I deal with this anxiety of I need to do things perfect. This is a story in my head. I'm just being honest. I deal with, growing up and just I do it growing up. Growing up, I felt like this, and like I needed to look perfect. I needed to act perfect. I needed to have this whole thing put together. And I was homeschooled till ninth grade, and I needed to know all the things. I know it's a lot. It's a lot. It's amazing that I turned out semi-normal, but I love you, mom and dad. It's a long time though. It's a long time. But I dealt with this feeling of like inadequacy. I didn't really know all the things. I had to catch up with a lot of things. So when that started to come into my art, like I've really struggled with it, and I still do today. But it's something I have to keep reminding myself. It's just a mindset. I have to remind myself what I am good at, and that helps me to get through that anxiety and move forward in a better way. So I'm struggling with it, but I know it's there, and I know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
So
good, honestly. And now you're here to help us.
Yeah.
Right?
I hope so. I hope so.
You are. No, you are.
I am. Strong narratives.
Greg says one of my favorite quotes from Jasmine Starr. I've met Jasmine from the photography world. Perfection is just procrastination in disguise. Absolutely. I think so interesting. Kristen, I'm going to put this up on the screen. I want to talk about this for a moment because I think we need to say something about this, because I think Jasmine Starr is correct in one way, that it can be, a byproduct, a procrastination can kind of, and perfection can kind of float together and kind of, seesaw back and forth. But at the same time, Tammy, you have some really interesting, knowledge from your field about how perfectionism comes into our lives, how it creeps in women. You have a couple of points about that. I got my notes here, so I think this is the perfect time to kind of talk about that. And friends, if you haven't noticed, we are doodling as we go. Now we are going to be doing more specific exercises later. So what you're seeing on the screen now isn't like the painting that we're doing that I talked about earlier. So stick around, because we're going to be doing 2 exercises that I want to say guarantee, but that's a big word, but I pretty much think I can say guarantee you've never seen before, exactly in the way we're presenting them. So, I mean, it's a big world, it's a big internet. So, I might be wrong, but we'll see. Gretchen, thank you so much for sharing that quote. It's really interesting. And honestly, for me, when my perfectionism rears its ugly head, for me, I know it's procrastination for me, but it's not always the answer for a lot of people. So, let's get Tammy up full screen. Maybe I think I might be taking some notes, so maybe we'll go to a split screen, but let's get Tammy full screen. And because I want to hear, I really want to focus on her face, and I want to focus on her expressions when she shares this with you. Sorry, we're getting there. I just want a couple comments. Miriam, comparing my skills to others and talking myself out of painting. Yes, that's a form of perfectionism. Oh, that was such a good segue, wasn't it, Tammy?
So good.
So go ahead, Tammy. Just hit it. I'm gonna take notes. I'm gonna be taking some creative notes here. So friends, stick around, because at some point you're gonna see my notes. You're gonna want to see them. Go ahead.
Okay. So, and again, I've said this before, I live next to an airport. Apparently it's time for the planes to go around, so forgive me if you hear them. Again, this is real life. It is what it is. I hear one coming in. It is what it is. So there's a lot of things that we have to consider when we think about where do we get this need to be perfect. And I'll tell you one thing, and I'm talking in stereotypes, so there's always exceptions. But in general, boys are in society are kind of trained to be adventurous, to keep trying things. If you fail, you keep going until you succeed. And girls from a young age are socialized to be perfect. So I want you to understand that part And that doesn't mean your parents taught you that. But what you're seeing on TV, what you're seeing now on social media, what you're maybe hearing your friends say, adults in your life. And so if you think that everything you have to do, and this is not just a conversation for women, okay? This is for everyone. But if you have been socialized to be perfect, when you do something that you don't do well, you give up, right? So if you play a new sport and that first day it didn't go well, you're likely to be like, I'm not doing that ever again because I have to do everything perfect. That's a lot of stress. But here's the thing, a lot of times family dynamics play into it. If you have a parent, oh, good job. It's already on the screen. I love that. That was really quick. If you have parents that are demanding, if you had parents that are demanding, that they suffered from some insecurity and they expected you to be. So think about this. Does this relate to anything that you dealt with? If they expected you to achieve highly, to do all these things for them or for in school, and you had to do them well, there's a sense of responsibility. And then sometimes there's a punishment involved, sometimes harsh punishment, verbally, physical. And those are things that reinforce I'm going to be able to get positive reinforcement from my parents if I do things perfectly. So that's not a person's parent saying you have to be perfect, but you're developing that through what you're learning. If you have a parent that wants to or is more detached, or maybe they're just busy, they're called distracted parenting. Either they were busy working 80, 100 hours a week, or maybe they were sitting in front of the TV 80, 100 hours a week, and you needed to get their attention. Sometimes a child feels like I need to do all these things to get that positive reinforcement from my mom or my dad, and then I will feel like a whole person. And so these traits get, trickled down to adulthood. There's other things. I mean, we're going to talk about comparison, and I'll go over a couple and then we'll take a little break, do something else, and we can revisit some of these. There's a lot of reasons why we develop perfectionism. Another one is comparison, and we have social media now to blame, of course. But this idea that I'm looking on there, I'm seeing what you're doing, it looks really good. I do this too when it comes to art. I look and I see all my favorite artists on Instagram, and I start to get in this cloud that I'm not good enough. My art is not good enough. It doesn't look like that. I need it to look like that. And this is that narrative that's creeping in. And so I'm going to go back to that a lot. Your narrative needs to change. And what do I mean by that? I'm going to give you a simple example, and then I'll shut up for a bit and we'll go on to something else because we want to keep it moving, keep it interesting, but comparing yourself, right? So the narrative might be, let's go in the simple art world. I see someone's post and I'm saying, wow, that is much more professional than mine. Or her skills or his skills are way more advanced than mine. And then how do I feel? If I think a thought that is negative, I will feel less than, I will feel frustrated, I will feel upset. And then what do? It's thoughts turn to feelings, turn to actions. My actions are, I'm not going to try as hard. So being able to rewrite that narrative would be, I see their art and I say, I appreciate their art. That looks good. My art is different and it's also good. That's it. And if I think that, I'm going to feel good about myself and my behaviors are going to be normal. So just something to kind of think about. And if you find yourself having a hard time not comparing because it's really getting you down, you know what you need to do. Shut it down. You don't need to look at the stuff. Take a break. I love what you've done there. It's really pretty.
I put it full screen because I want to make sure I have this right. Mm-hmm. If I think the thought, then that leads to the feeling.
Yes, ma'am.
Then that leads to the action. So can you just, this is so important. Mm-hmm. So let's do an example of a good thought as we're looking at someone else's art. Let's go through this flow chart with a positive scenario, and let's do a negative and then a positive. Can you do that?
Absolutely. Do you want me to do it specifically for art or?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, right. So you're sitting there, you're looking through social media and you're like, man, I'm looking through all this stuff. So the negative thought might creep in, like, my skills are not as advanced, or they are much better than me and they've been painting as long as I have. And if you think those thoughts, they're better than me, they've been painting just as long and their work is more advanced, then I feel insecure. I feel frustrated. I feel like giving up. So then my action is going to be, I'm not going to try as hard. Or maybe I'm going to keep consuming media and looking at everyone else's stuff and painting less and, scrutinizing my work more. Okay. So those would be the ways that the negative, this is called a cognitive, kind of like you could make a triangle actually and do that, the 3 points, cognitive triangle. So let's see, let's go through a positive. All right. Yes. So she's got a triangle. The thoughts are on the top, on the top. Mm-hmm. And then to the left corner would be feelings. And then the right corner would be actions. Okay. And I want you to write the word event in the middle of the triangle. Okay. So we did something. Yeah.
Did not plan this. I love it though.
I love it too. This is the cognitive triangle. I use it with all of my clients. I use it with myself. And if you could remind yourself, maybe just, do that. I'm so glad you painted that and you wrote that out. So just write it in a corner of a notebook or make a big piece of paper, take a piece of paper and write it out and remind yourself, because when something bad happens, you always have an automatic negative thought and then it translates to a negative feeling and then a negative action. So the positive thing would be, again, you're scrolling through social media, you're seeing all the things and just, appreciate it. Like, oh, that's a really beautiful painting, or I can paint as well as they can. I love that, kind of comparing. Okay, we're both on the same page, but you can recognize it for something good. And if you do that, then your feeling is going to be a good feeling and your action will be your normal actions. And this can be translated to all aspects of your life, of course, not just art. But reminding you, the last thing I will say with this is that if you experience any type of anxiety, because perfectionism is a form of anxiety, if you experience that, I guarantee you have anxiety in all aspects of your life.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. And so, and that's why it's important to be able to challenge, that's what we call it, challenge these negative thoughts so that we can find a place of, replacing it with a more rational thought. And that's going to help us with our anxiety everywhere.
Oh, goodness. So I just wrote here, perfectionism is a form of anxiety.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. So, how are we feeling, friends? Let us know. Is this resonating with you? The comments are coming through so quick. I can't even keep up. Let's go through a couple. GSD mom says, I'm terrible at getting out of my own head. Gina says, here we go. I think that is resonating with a lot of people.
Okay.
I love the conversations that are happening in the comment section. Friends, if you're here on replay, look at the comment section. I want you to see the live replay. Make sure you have that turned on and see the conversations that are happening. They're so, so important. I really struggle once I get to the shutting down portion. Jennifer stops me from paint. My lack of being perfect stops me from painting. That's interesting.
Interesting.
Heidi says the comparison versus your own style idea is why I said Christy is my choice for teacher. I love that she encourages us to develop our own style and embrace our weird. Thank you, Heidi. Thank you. But let us know if this is resonating. Hi, Linda. If you feel like you're getting some value out of this right now, today, in this moment, go ahead and give us a boop, give us a like, all the things. I think it's a thumbs up, depending if you're on a TV or a device or whatever. But we would love some love because it helps other people find this live and find the replay who need potentially desperately to hear it. And that's really why we're here. We're here to help. We're here to, help you find some of the joy, some of that like everlasting, deep rooted, coming from your gut, no matter what circumstances are plaguing you, joy that comes from watercolor. So the last thing that Tammy and I want is for some of this junk to get in the way of that joy, right? I want to go back to my notes because the thing is, I don't want to miss
Yes.
any of this. So
Okay.
we talked about family dynamics. You talked about sin. So what else kind of makes us perfectionists?
Okay. So there are some other things I want to pinpoint. One thing I would say is trauma. So, I talked about parents kind of demanding, maybe they're perfectionists themselves, maybe they're detached and you're trying to get attention. But let's talk further about trauma. And that could be in childhood, and that could be in adulthood, and it could be both. Right now, I'm starting to write a group for, basically, it's not necessarily for women or men, but it's just for partners of people who are narcissistic. And I'm not talking narcissistic in the street sense of like, oh, that person's really, into themselves. They think they're amazing. But there's a clinical definition of a personality disorder called narcissism, and it's very toxic. And the trauma that one goes through with that is incredible. This pulling and pushing of love. There's like this, and I don't know if this resonates with anyone. It's so pivotal. I've been studying this in this last week and just like, and I would say that I'm a highly empathetic person, which kind of sounds like bragging. It's a good thing and it's not. It's good in the health profession, but it also is very hard because I feel all the things. And my heart was really moved because I'm hearing these stories of people that have gone through that. And so, there's this like idea of, there's this lovely period and the person is trying to get you on their side and showing that they love you and lavishing all the love. It's called love bombing. And then there's like this buildup of tension. And then there's this incident that happens. And then there's a reconciliation and so much good stuff that you kind of forget what happened. And then there's a calm period and it goes again and again. So that is an example of something that can happen in childhood or it can happen in adulthood with an actual partner or both. So how do you deal with that? And if you have someone that's dealt with trauma, we're just going to talk about it. Sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, which emotional is so hard to like describe. It's not tangible, right? They're all hard. So how do you deal with that? Anxiety. This is a thing that comes out of feeling like you've been wounded, you've been taken advantage of. And so we try to kind of control our environment, and it helps us feel like we have some type of control in our life, whether we have trauma ongoing or whether it's in our past. And so that's one way why we might try to do things perfectly, because it gives us a sense of like, I have control over something, even though I may not have control over everything in my life or what happened to me. So trauma is a big thing. And I always encourage people, if you've gone through that, if you can make it work, to talk to someone, to talk to a therapist, to go to a group, because being able to develop skills on how to talk about what happened to you, it makes the world of difference for you, not only to go from a victim, which is a person who doesn't really know how to deal with what happened, to a survivor. A survivor is a person that has been given some tools to adapt, to learn, to move forward. But we don't want to stop there. We want to be a thriver. And that's a person who takes what the tools they've learned and the experiences they've gone through, and they use it to help benefit other people. They go on to be like the social workers, the counselors, the lawyers, the advocates for people who don't have a voice, and they know how it feels. So trauma is a big one, and we want to control, and that helps us feel safe, even though it may not change what we're going through, if that makes sense. And also I would say personality traits. And personality traits, that could be something that's, wow, you're really quick, Kristen. Good job. She's amazing. Amazing. Yes, with that can be something that's developed, within your childhood. We talked about family dynamics, right? But it's this idea that someone is very, for example, very conscientious. A conscientious person, they're very aware of things, of rules, of people's feelings, of like, they can be very caring, but they can also be very anxious to not do anything wrong, if that makes sense. And also someone who has high expectations of themselves. So those are some personality traits, okay? Again, it's to control what's going on so that we feel safe. because we don't feel safe. We haven't felt safe. And if the persons in your life have not given you an environment that makes you feel safe, I'm so sorry you've dealt with that. It's not okay. And it's okay to say that it's not okay. So those are a few of the things that I would mention: comparison, family dynamics, trauma, personality traits, anxiety and control. That's all kind of developed in there. And I would also say self-doubt, and how you develop self-doubt. It's about all the above, everything we've talked about. But again, that story in our head that tells us we're not good enough, we're not smart enough. And so how do we change the narrative? Actually, on my notebook here, I wrote down a few little things that people said. And I thought it might be kind of interesting just to go over that. If I could just give you an example of how to change the narrative. Okay. So it's simple, but it's hard. One thing I always say is there's no room for perfectionism in art. So let's try to remember that. There's no room for it. Okay? Art is expressive and fluid and flowing and beautiful. When we put perfectionism in it, it sucks the joy. Okay?
Amen.
So someone talked about comparison in their comment. Someone talked about how they struggle with, I think, finishing their art. Someone talked about, they said, I'm terrible at getting out of my own head. So this is a narrative in our head. So if we tell ourselves, and it's no offense to anyone, like these are real statements we use, but just to keep in mind that when we say stuff like I'm terrible at, we're going to feel terrible at it, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to reflect that in our actions. So instead of saying I'm terrible at getting out of my own head, you can say something like, I'm learning to get out of my own head. I'm not asking you to lie and say, I'm great at getting out of my own head. I'm not asking for that. I'm saying let's use some language that will help us feel like we're getting somewhere. Does that make sense?
I absolutely adore that. So what it's a strategy for being kind to yourself with your words.
Yes.
Would you agree that that's a good kind of assessment of what you just shared?
I love that. Being kind to yourself. Absolutely.
About being kind to yourself. I have a video about being kind to yourself in your art. Mm-hmm. And I love that as a strategy of kind of flipping the switch on the way you talk to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Is that kind of where you're at with what you were saying, Tammy? I just want to make sure I'm, representing you well.
Yeah. Yeah, you got it. It's about changing how we talk to ourselves. And this is so important. The story in our head. And if you guys are wondering oh, how can I learn more about this, this cognitive triangle and all the fun stuff? It's something called CBT. It's cognitive behavioral therapy. It's pretty common. A lot of therapists use it because it's backed up by science, by research that it's effective. And it challenges the irrational negative thoughts that we have to try to replace them with more rational ones. And it does a lot of other things, but that is kind of that main piece that I want you guys to hear. So if you have a therapist and you're like, hey, can we do some CBT? Or you're looking for a therapist, CBT is it. It's good stuff. It really is. These thoughts are so powerful. And I promise you, if you are so here's my challenge to you. If you're sitting in your car, sitting in your house, and you're worried, and you're sitting there, you have a deep feeling. I want you to rewind and say, okay, what's the thought in my head right now? What's the thought that's making me feel like this? Because I guarantee, I feel like I want to say 100% of the time there's a thought. I'd say most of the time there's a thought behind that feeling. And so you isolate it. What am I thinking right now? Oh, I'm really worried about how I'm going to pay my bills. Money has been short. Okay. So then I'm feeling frustrated and worried and concerned, which is a legit thought, and maybe I'm waiting for my paycheck to come in, which it always comes in, right? But that's what I'm thinking. I'm afraid I'm not going to pay my bills. And so then my action is I'm sitting there feeling frustrated at work, at home. It's ruining my day. It's ruining my existence. And I can't do anything to change my situation right now, right? So if I can change that thought and say, you know what, I'm going to worry about that. Once my check comes in, I should be able to pay my bills. And if not, I'll worry about that later. And then how I'm going to feel, I'm telling myself what to think. I'm telling myself how I need to feel.
Yeah.
And it changes how we feel and what we do. So this is my last piece on this. It doesn't change. You cannot change what's happened to you, but you can change how you feel about it.
Seriously. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling that with like every cell in my soul right now. And if you are too, we want to hear about it. Keep sharing in comments. I am reading. Lori Bolt says, a wise person once said, as a man thinks, so he is. Jennifer says, love it. Tammy, you are spot on. Absolutely.
Glad it resonates.
But Miriam says too, it's such a heavy process. So
Heavy process. Yeah.
I'm going to put you on the spot, Tammy. You know,
Go for it.
you can say all of these things. It's lovely. You're giving strategy, super dupes. Like, great. But like the reality of it, like how when we are in the middle of a tangle in our mind about a particular thought, struggling to sort out the feeling behind it, struggling to turn it into a positive action. And I'm referring to my little triangle here. I'm referring to notes, but like, what is there a strategy? What if we want to free all that up, if we want to head towards a positive action, is there an art strategy that you have found effective?
Specifically for changing your narrative?
Yeah.
Is this the time where I share my activity?
Sure.
I mean, I think for me, you know, what I like to do is, and art journaling is really fun to do. It can be and you've been doing that. You did that already. And so that to me feels like one of the most effective strategies. What I would do is simply say, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to take my blank paper. I'm not going to be worried about how it's blank. I'm just going to paint something that feels satisfying. For me, I like to kind of take a reference photo if I'm feeling a little unsure. And then I go ahead and just, you know, use that to inspire me, or just to do doodles or whatever. You know, and this is something, you know, I'll sit down and just do like either doodles, and then I will take charcoal and make lines over the top, or I will take a pen and make lines over the top, or pencil, adding in some different like kind of designs, mixing up some different paints here. But for me, I like to do a bunch of things where I'm not really thinking about it. And then I take my pen and I start to write some notes. So what I would do is have like 3 different corners, just like with the triangle. And, you know, at the top is your thought. So what is the thought? Because here's the thing. There's probably something that is gnawing on your mind, something that is frustrating you. And so what is that thought for that day that you need to work on? And write that thought in. And I've asked people, like last time I said, you know, paint some rainbows or some hearts or florals, different florals. And then write up at that top your thought that's causing you stress. And then at the bottom, write what it is that it's making you feel. And what is it that's making, you know, what's the action that it's kind of causing you to have? Okay. And so then at that point, you're writing down, and you can even do like a triangle if you want, maybe put a flower at each corner or something, and then write that negative thought, feeling, and action. And then you're going to take another piece of paper and do the same thing, but rewrite that thought. And I would argue, I know you had mentioned a positive thought. I wouldn't even say positive thought. I would say rational thought. And positive is good, but we don't even need to be like, it doesn't even need to be like super, you know, super positive and happy. It can just be like, here's a more like realistic thought on this. I do want to share an example actually that I've used a lot for relationships with people. So what if, and this is something that maybe will resonate with someone. Sorry, I should probably finish what I'm saying. So with the second triangle, right, you're gonna just draw in the triangle or make florals or paint, make it beautiful. And then write, what is your more rational thought at the top? your more rational feeling when you think that rational thought, and then your action. And so here's a real life example. So for example, let's say there's a couple, husband and wife, and they have this little routine. And every day before the husband goes to work, he gives her a kiss and says goodbye, right? Every single day. And this is their routine. And then one day she wakes up and she sees that he left. He didn't say goodbye. He didn't give her a hug. He's gone. So what's her thought going to be? Her irrational thought is probably like, he's upset with me. There's something wrong. And this is an auto thought, right? It just pops in. And then how is she going to feel? Upset, frustrated, sad, depending on how she normally reacts in a situation like this. And so her action is probably going to be, she's either going to give him the cold shoulder and not talk to him when he comes home, or she's going to maybe send him a nasty text and berate him about how horrible he is and how dare he, mess up their routine and why is he mad. But what she needs to do is take 3 deep breaths, calm down, and say, what is a more rational explanation? It might, and it's usually simple, guys. Make it simple. Could be, you know what? He's been stressed at work lately, or maybe he was late and he forgot. Okay? So this is a more rational thought. It doesn't have all this emphasis that we've added in, that we've created in our heads. If she thinks that, you know what? He probably just forgot. Her feeling is going to be pretty normal. And her thought is going to be, her action is going to be pretty normal. She's going to go to work. She's not going to ruminate all day long about how she hates her husband and how he hates her. And I'm serious. Like, we do this.
Yes, we do.
Yes. And it destroys us. She's going to go to work, do her thing, come home. But here's the thing. I'm not saying we're ignoring stuff. What if she finds out later that he's really upset? Well, guess what? They will deal with it in the moment when they find out. But we need to protect ourselves from creating a story when we have zero evidence for it. Yeah.
I love that. Zero, we create a story.
Yeah.
I do want to share I was kind of following your guidance as you were talking. So what did you say? We create a story when we have no evidence for it?
Yep. Create a story without evidence. Go ahead.
A story with no evidence. Oh, I love that right there.
Yeah. So it's powerful stuff, and I promise you it'll change your life if you are able to practice this on a daily basis. Because again, like I said, it doesn't change what happened to you or maybe what will happen. It's changing how you see it. And this is all about like emotions here, right? So we can just deal with our day and not ruminate like a cow who has 4 stomachs or something, and they chew their cud, right? Or 6, I don't know. There's a bunch in there, and they're chewing their cud and they swallow it down, and then they bring it back up and they chew it again. And they swallow. It's just like this really, I don't understand the process. Why is this necessary? So let's not do that. Let's not be cows. Let's not ruminate. Let's
just about. Yeah. I'm glad I wasn't eating a snack because I would have spit it right out.
I know. It is nasty. We need to realize that. It's nasty. That is your visual for today. So
love it.
Just saying.
So I'm going to just share what I did here. It's unplanned, but I think it's interesting. So, so I love creating this kind of flower. So I started there, just doodling. And then I kind of did like a triangle-ish thing with my leaves. So actually my thought isn't terribly irrational. It's factual. I can't change, right? But it's my frustrating thought that I've been having, school starting today, time is passing too quickly. And this particular thought, even though it's not irrational, it's factual, it is causing me a lot of anxiety and stress, right?
Yeah.
And it of course, the feelings, all of it is centering around my children and like the fact, like, did I do enough for summer, and did we go enough places, and did I create enough memories, and And gosh, and you know, those horrible memes that you see on Facebook, you only have 18 summers with your.
Oh my goodness. I hate those. Someone sent that to me
And by the
personally.
time your child is 12, you've spent 98% of the time that you're going to spend. Oh my gosh, horrible. So like, that's all my feelings there wrapped up in this unfortunately factual thought. And so like, my third arm is what is my action going to be? Am I going to just like sit and ruminate? Am I going to, you know, after this live today, you know, am I going to just go sit in front of because I do love me some TV. Am I going to just sit in front of the TV and just kind of like blank out because I'm just so overwhelmed, and my my breathing is like tight, like just thinking about it. But instead, what I thought an action could be, well, is to obviously continue journaling like this, because this is so fun. Oh my gosh, I've never done this triangle thing, right?
Yeah.
So like this thing, but in art form, right? But my action for this is to, you know, we actually have a couple free weekends. We have a very, very, very free September, which is odd for us. So I'm going to plan a few mommy and me dates with each kid.
I love it.
You know, separately and together. And I'm putting that in my actions corner. Is that kind of what you were thinking, Tammy, with explaining that journaling exercise?
Yeah, my friend, yes. I love what you did there. I would add something to it.
Okay.
I would add the only other piece, because again, time is passing too quickly. So yes, I'm glad you brought this up, because there are thoughts that are just like, this is just real, right?
Yeah.
And we're not going to pretend, no, time is not passing quickly. This is not to lie to ourselves.
Right.
I'm not into that. But what I would say, I'm going to throw this out here.
Okay.
Time is passing. So time is passing too quickly. The verbiage there already with the too quickly is setting you up for some strong emotions. But I would say, you know, and I know you're talking about your kids are growing up fast, right?
Yep.
And so I would say something like, my kids are growing fast, but they are developing the way they're supposed to. Or my kids are my kids are supposed to grow up, right? I know there are people out there that have kids that have struggles, that developmentally they may never grow up in the way that we want them to. There are kiddos that deal with learning disabilities, physical disabilities. My own niece needs full care. And my heart longs for my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, because she will never be able to do these things that we expect our kids to do.
Yeah.
And that breaks my heart. And so being able to be grateful for, even if things feel hard, knowing like, this is how kids are supposed to grow up. This is normal. They're supposed to, you know, go through their grades and learn all the things. Then what do we say to the parents that have kids that are in that same predicament, where that's not going to be their situation? And I bet you there's people listening right now that they're sitting there thinking, that's not fair. You know, okay, kids are supposed to grow up. That's normal. My kid is never going to feel these things or experience these things. Again, you know, I'm with you on that. My heart hurts for you. I can't say I know what that's like. If I did, that would be a lie, right?
Yep.
And that's a whole nother thing, because that person is grieving over and over as a child grows older and misses some of those developmental marks. That hurts. That's painful. So I'm just kind of like, I'm validating what you've put down, and also like wanting to reach out to people who are dealing with that as well. And how do you deal with that when you have a kid that struggles? You know, it's hard. It's hard.
So there's two things I want to share before it leaps out of my head. And friends, if you're still with us, just let us know in comments. Let us know an aha moment that you've had, which I know you're already sharing them. I see them just pulsing past. They're going so fast I can't keep up. just, we want to know that you're here. We want to know that this is
Mhm.
helping. If you have questions, please ask the questions. And Kristen, feel free to pop up those questions on the screen until you hear one of us acknowledging the question, because we don't want to miss any. But so I just want to share two things. I wrote here, instead of time is passing too quickly, because you're right, Tammy, that is a
Yeah.
negative connotation, right? On a factual thing that I can't change. So what I wrote next is that my kids are growing up in an inspiring way.
I like that.
But what I wanted to add to that, and this is something I believe we spoke about, and if it was someone else, I apologize, but I'm pretty sure you can pontificate on it, even if it wasn't you. But did we not talk about the idea of be grateful, and
Being grateful.
how that can tie into banishing anxiety or perfectionism? And I only thought of it because you shared your personal story with I believe it was your niece, and that she I'm sitting here being sad that my kids are growing up and all the things, but I need to be also grateful that they are able to grow up, experience milestones that every child, we hope and wish for every child to experience. And so then I'm able to step into a space of being grateful. And what impact does gratefulness have on this process? I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Yes, my friend. So I have I listed 5 things here, and gratefulness is one of those. It caught me rubbing my eyeballs. um, Gratefulness is one of the 5 things. Like, what do you do? What's the fix? Like, all this information is great, change the narrative, or what else? And so this ability to be able to, and I love to make lists. I love making lists. I love checking them off. This is my part of trying to kind of control my day, but I have to make sure that it's not in like an obnoxious way. It just needs to be, we're being organized, right? If my anxiety starts to hit in there, and I'm like, okay, I need to figure out why these lists are so important to me. But making a list of what you are grateful for example, if you were to list just one thing a day, in a year, you would have 365 or 366 things on a leap year that you are grateful for. Just one thing. And there's so much. What if you feel like life is just horrible, everything is bad. This is a narrative. This makes me feel bad. This makes me do things that reflect my poor feelings. But if I have to remind myself, what is good? Okay, I woke up this morning. Well, not everyone would think that is good. But in general, it's a good thing, right? Maybe I had breakfast this morning. The people that are flying on the airplane I can hear right now, like that's probably a good day for them. They're going somewhere. If the sun is shining and I like the sun, maybe I have some flowers on my coffee table. My cat is affectionate. I have some money in the bank, so that's good. I'm able to watercolor paint. Maybe I can go for a walk. These are little things, but they add up to a list of gratefulness. Remember, it's still that narrative. So if I read their list, I can't feel bad at the same time that I'm feeling good. And if I revisit my list whenever I'm feeling ugh, and then I add a thing, it reminds me I'm grateful for the little things. And that feeling starts to get bigger as we start to focus on it. Here's the thing too. Someone was in one of the talks I was listening to, I don't remember now what it was. They were talking about, our focus. We see what we focus on. And so if I'm looking at, for example, when I started watercolor painting and I was taking reference photos and I was sketching, I started to see all this really beautiful, beautiful things I wanted to paint, sketch in nature that I'd never seen before because my mind was on it. I was focusing on it. If I were to be, focusing on bunnies, for example, I'm going to go outside and I'm going to see all the bunnies where maybe the last year or so I didn't notice, because I'm thinking about it. My daughter likes bunnies and we talk about bunnies a lot. We draw them and all the things. So whatever I put my mind to is what I'm going to see. And that's the same with the positive and the negative. If my glass is half empty, my glass is empty now. I need some more. I need some more caffeine. But if my glass is half empty and I'm seeing the world through negative filter, that is what I'm going to see. If I look at my husband and I see all his faults and I'm always pointing it out, that's all I'm going to see. I'm never going to see him doing anything good. Here's another thing, little thing. Catching someone doing good, catching yourself doing good, or catching someone else. This is a psychological thing we tell people to do. Say you're having that same issue with your partner and you're like, oh, they're terrible, or I'm terrible. And you're just focusing on the bad, actually applying that concept of trying to catch them doing something well and complimenting it, writing it down, you're going to start to see the good stuff. And if it's about you too and your self-esteem, and you feel like you're just you feel like trash. I don't know how else to say it. There's plenty of people that feel like trash. They are no good. They're not good for nothing. That nobody loves them. They don't have value, which you do have value. Everyone has value, but we don't always feel it. The messages we've received from our family of origin often cause us to feel these things. But I want you to take charge and say, you know what? I am a person of value. Let me look for it. Let me write it down and remind myself of the ways that I have helped. If you helped someone take out their trash, that's something you've done. You've added value to someone else's life by being kind. If you gave someone, maybe there's a person who is houseless on the side of the road, and you give them money because you feel like you want to, or you give them a sandwich. That's a little piece of good that you have done. Write that down. Encourage yourself, and you'll keep doing these things, and it's going to help you to feel more grateful for everything around. That's my favorite that.
Yes, I'm sorry. And I made you switch. I kind of like fast forwarded a little bit, but I felt like it was a really important time.
Yeah, totally fine.
Important time. So, friends, we're headed into some painting right now, and I'm gonna go first because I'm gonna give Tammy a little breaky break. But I'm going to share an exercise that, oh gosh, so I do one-on-ones in my Patreon, and this particular exercise came to be in one of those one-on-one sessions. Friends, all of our contact info, I'm linking all of Tammy's, where you can find hers down below once this is wrapped up. So, you need to subscribe to Tammy's channel, see all that she's doing, her evolution, and just hear more of this awesomeness that you're hearing today. So it's all going to be below. If you're interested, Tammy, you have Patreon, right?
I'm on Patreon. Yes, I am. As low as $3 a month.
Okay. So I'm going to link both of ours below.
Aww. Thanks.
So that you can have access to that, since I did bring up Patreon. So anywho, friends, the exercise today, it is a hybrid of really 3 different techniques, but the way that they come together is super exciting. I would suggest that you paint along with me. So let me tell you, you need a pencil, you need some watercolors, and you need some type of like black pen. I am using one of my current favorites, which is the Paper Mate Flare, but any kind of black marker, a Sharpie is going to work. And that's what you're going to need. So this is a combination of continuous line drawing. All right.
Love that.
Yeah. Neurographic art. And like a line and wash. So it's kind of like a neurographic line and wash continuous thing. And it sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. And so continuous line art, if you're not familiar, it's kind of like a way of just letting your hand and your brain just dance on the page without committing to too much realism, without committing too many of the techniques that get us to a more realistic result on the page. So I'm just going to go right into it. Really important is an overhand hold. I am going to just flash the end result here, friends, so you can see. I'm going to be doing a dahlia. So you can follow me, watch what I do. This is the end result. It's so freeing. The response I got with the gal that I was doing this with in her one-on-one session was just, her mind was blown. She was like beyond. So you're going to start at the center. Think of a dahlia, do a daisy if you don't really have a picture of a dahlia in your head. And you're going to try not to lift your pencil, overhand hold pencil from the page. Start it at the center, and I'm going to start going out, and I'm going to just start creating these like wonky teardrops. You can stop, but don't lift your pencil. Don't lift your pencil. Don't lift your pencil. And so you're going to have crossover. You're going to have lines that you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, they don't belong there. At this point, our big time perfectionists are like, what are you doing, Rice?
Yeah.
I'm going to flash this back on. I'm trying not to lift my pencil. A dahlia has that kind of like, some of the classic dahlias are pointed, but kind of fat petals. So I'm thinking about that as I go. Some of them curl on top of one another. So I might go inside some of these and create like, now I'm just removing my hand so you can see what I'm doing, but creating some of those like cup-like shapes. But the point is to glide, bounce around the page with a light touch, then get into some leaves, and don't lift up your hand. And here's what this does. Now I'm going to lift up for the sake of instruction. So the continuous line, it forces you to just let go. Because you're not able to lift your hands, you have to succumb to a lot of imperfection. A lot of imperfection. Right? I want to go spy on Tammy and see if she's doing this.
Hey, girl, hey. I'm feeling it.
Yeah. So it forces you to let go, right?
What's that?
The continuous line, it forces you to let go. It forces you to kind of surrender. But there's a twist. There's a beautiful twist that is coming. And we discovered it during this one-on-one session. So the next thing that I would love for you to do, friends, is we're going to do some wash on this. Now, if you want to continue on, create some more leaves with that continuous line, they can be even more fun because they're a little bit more of a simpler shape. They can be even more freeing if you love doing leaves. Like, see how I'm just creating lines and then just like doubling back on myself to create almost like a little vine here. Super, super fun, right? All right. So what we're going to do now is grab your watercolor, spray down your palette, friends. Work quick. That is the thing too with this at this stage of this exercise. Quick. Right? Now's the fun part. Grab the biggest brush you have. I'm using It's Just Paper brush from the Free From Fear brush collection. Excuse me. Wet on dry. And I'm just going to get in there with some very messy washes. Get some yellow for my center. Get some green. Don't feel like you have to rinse your brush a lot. I'm going lighter, right? I'm going lighter by design, just because I like seeing the pencil. It's very freeing. But again, this exercise, every aspect of this exercise is forcing you to surrender to imperfection, surrender to going outside the lines, surrender to weird bleeds between two colors that maybe you weren't planning, surrender to white space that maybe eventually will never get covered with paint, surrendering to all the things that you try to prevent. That is so important. Surrender to what you usually try to prevent. Right? Love that.
I love that.
Important. And then I'm going to go out here. When I go off screen, I am rinsing just a little bit, but don't go to a smaller brush. That's one of my rules for this exercise with the line and wash. Don't go to a smaller brush. Just force yourself to be okay with what you can get down quickly with the biggest brush you have. Beautiful. Talk yourself up. Be kind to yourself during these exercises. Maybe there's maybe a vast majority of it at this stage you really don't like. Find the one small space that you do like. And tell yourself about it. Talk out loud. Tell yourself about it. Please, please, please. It can make such a difference. Such a difference. So the second step here was wash, right? Now these two steps, friends, were the quick steps. These are the quick, and I'm making a visual separator here. And I'm really just doing this. You don't have to copy my notes. You can just make a lovely piece of art, not have all the words all over it. But I think it's important for you to understand my thought process because it really helps you understand the benefits of this exercise. There's going to be a quick stage, and then, friends, there's going to be a slower stage, a meditative stage. So this next stage of this exercise is our meditative. Did I spell that right? I hope I did. This is where things got really interesting. I'm grabbing my black marker. Now, the thing is with this, ideally, I'd want this page to be fully dry, but you know, we're live. All right. So the next part of this, friends, is a bit of a neurographic spin. So we all know I have a video here about neurographic art. I am going to link it below. And so I think we all have an idea of how it works, but let me basically tell you how we're going to use it here. Where petals overlap, you're going to connect them with a little, what do I want to call it? Like a little arc, right? Where petals connect. You can also do this with a pencil, maybe where the center connects, but we know how we do that with neurographic art, right? Like we're doing the crazy lines that go off the page, right? Like something like this. And then we come back in where those lines intersect and we thicken them wherever they intersect. That's the idea of neurographic art. And then, you know, there's so many different ways to kind of turn neurographic art into, you know, artwork and fill it in with watercolor, that kind of stuff. But this kind of stuff, right? So we're going to do that in our flower. You make little arcs, little thickened arcs. And you can do some non-continuous lines kind of extending out from it. You can go in here. And this is a lovely process that requires you to slow down. Notice my voice has completely changed. I noticed this happening when I was working on this exercise in the one-on-one. And I said to her, I said, can you believe this? Do you hear my voice? I cannot talk with my normal kind of bold voice when I am doing this particular exercise. Is anybody painting with me besides Tammy? I'm curious to know. So I'm just going in every little place where shapes are connecting and then extending out to define areas. Do a little here. And what starts to happen, friends, which is so exciting to me and can be a lovely little delicious surprise, is you actually start to get a piece that is a little more representational than you probably thought it was going to be. And that is the surprise and delight, joyful part of this process that becomes incredibly exciting and inspiring. That you start so imperfect. You start so disjointed. You start so splashy and wonky, and that it could possibly turn into something, you know, a little more realistic than you ever thought this quote unquote exercise. It's another reason why I hate the word exercise, because some of my best exercises have turned into some of my favorite artwork. But it requires that surrender. They're playing around with the line weight. Notice how, like, especially right here, how I'm playing around with the line weight and really having fun there. I'm going to turn this into like a little baby petal here just by extending that line. And this is the meditative part. This is you getting lost in the shapes, You don't have a reference image. This is you. Oh, maybe I can turn this into a petal. Like seeing what evolves as you add shapes, as you thicken areas, as you let that pen just traverse the paper. What happens? Where does it take you? Put on some calming music. Or, I don't know. I love Downton Abbey. I listen to Downton Abbey. It calms me when I'm painting or filming. I love TV. I love movies. So put something on that calms you and just get lost in finding these shapes. Get lost in creating these definitions. Go out into the leaves if you want. You don't have to do the whole neurographic thing. You could just do some fun, sketching over top. But friends, there she is. I need a name for this exercise. I need a name for this because it's continuous line, neurographic, and line and wash combined. And I have found it to be incredibly cathartic personally, since I kind of discovered it by happy accident, the combination of these techniques. I want to take a look at some comments here. I love the conversations. There's so many beautiful conversations. Virginia says, we'll definitely try this. DK says, love this. Mama Nana K, I'll definitely try this later. Try today. Friends, I'm just going to say to you, just a word of advice with the try it laters. I see Tammy working. Woo! Give yourself a time limit. Say, I am going to, because we've talked about this. We've talked about like switching the way we talk about things. So instead of, I'm going to try it later, say, I'm going to try this within the next 12 hours. And I know that almost seems like, that almost seems like we're giving back to perfectionism. Like I'm going to demand of myself that I try this in the next 12 hours. But what I find is that, building a more free lifestyle when it comes to your art requires rebuilding some habits. And a habit that we all share is, well, I'll do it later, I promise, right? So I encourage you to maybe reshape the way that you assign yourself a task or promise yourself that you're going to try something. Go ahead right now and set an alarm on your phone and give it a title that says paint that Christy thing now. And see if that changes things for you a little bit and changes your kind of your whether it's your requirement of how your space needs to be before you paint, or maybe you have to always clear off your desk before you paint, or maybe you're like, I will paint when the laundry's done, when I do the meal prep, after I do all those things. So promising yourself today that tomorrow at a given time frame, you're going to do the thing no matter what, obviously, as long as everybody's safe and well and fed, is such a great way to build a new habit. So I'm just going to read a few more comments. A little scary. Being careful about who, what, and where you are giving space to. Ooh, yeah, that's really important. Yes, I'm using a Faber-Castell drawing pencil. I'm using the Jumbo, I think it's called. It's an this one's a 2B. It's a Jumbo. I love a Jumbo pencil in my repertoire. I'd highly recommend going ahead and getting yourself a Jumbo pencil if you don't have one. Just looking at, yay, yes, painting. Can't wait for my first plein air. Ooh, in Australia, spring, summer. Yes. DK says, I sit outside when I paint and listen to music and sing. Ooh, I love it. Sing when I get happy. So I love that. Let go. Italia Dalliance. Yes, that would be a really fun name for this technique. I love it. Donna says, I have to just watch live and then rewatch and paint. Within 24 hours, I will paint. Love that. Nice. Donna established a really cool pattern for herself with these lives, and she's making promises to herself, and it's working. And I love that. Thank you, Donna. I'm going to pop that up on the screen because that's really good. Yes. Let's see. Fast and free. Painting now. Love it, love it, love it. Thank you, Diane. Thank you. Yeah. I'll start within the hour, says Mama Nana K. Love it. Virginia will do it today. I know Virginia will do it today. Heidi K says a commitment to myself. Yes, amen and hallelujah. We need to make commitments to ourselves. Absolutely, absolutely. So, friends, I have a couple strategies too. I'm going to share. I mentioned that I was going to be sharing a couple strategies for becoming the anti-perfectionist. I want to share. I already just shared one with you just now, so I'm going to reiterate. So, friends, let's start to build new habits where you are making promises to yourself. And the way that we can do that, so we remember, because our lives are so full. We have so many alarms set. We have so many things in the calendar, right? Our lives are fuller historically than they've ever been. And it's only getting crazier as each day ticks by, right? That's how I feel. So make promises to yourself. So you're watching this live. You really want to try this. Set an alarm. Set an alarm for when you're going to try it. For when you think you're going to have that window tomorrow. Set a near-term alarm to try the thing. And I know that sounds like the opposite of perfectionism, but we have to come to the battle of perfectionism with some new habits. So that is my point. So I'm going to share, I'm just going to leave that there because I would love Tammy to share some more of the fixes. Some more fixes.
More fixes. So we talked about the narrative. We talked about gratitude. And I want to talk about mindfulness. So mindfulness is something that you may think you know what it is, or you may think, well, you may just say, I don't know what that is. And we're going to clarify that. I actually just put out a video yesterday. If you want to hop to my channel and check it out, it's talking specifically about mindfulness versus flow state and how those impact your art. And so they're two very different things. And I would argue that they use two different sides of your brains. So based on what you're doing. But let's talk about mindfulness. Mindfulness is being aware, very aware. And so when I teach people to be mindful, here's the thing. We are usually thinking about the past, and we're worried about, it's not worried. We're like lamenting things that have happened or that we haven't done. And we get depressed sometimes. And depression, that's a big word. People don't like to say that they feel depressed or have felt it, but it happens. So common. We're either kind of depressed thinking about the past, or we're worried and anxious thinking about the future. And we're never usually stuck in the middle, in the present. And here's the thing, when you are not mindful of what's going on right now, in psychology, we say in the here and now with our clients, we're in the here and now, what's happening presently. If we're playing with our kids and we're in the past or we're in the future and we're ruminating and thinking, we're missing out on their smiles. We're missing out on their laughter. We're missing out on being present with the conversation. If we're talking to a colleague or a family member, a friend, and we're thinking about our to-do list, whether we're worried or not, we're not there, and we're missing out on what's happening here and fully taking stock in what we have in front of us. And so mindfulness is a practice. One thing I use is Headspace. It is an app, and I use it for bed. I've used it for a couple of years, I think, and it takes you through. It's called a meditation. People get scared when they hear the word meditation sometimes. It's simply like, it's helping your brain to focus on whatever it is you're trying to do. So for example, I like the one about sleep. So it'll just say, take a deep breath, relax, because you're always thinking. And instead of thinking, you're just going to focus on breathing in and out. That's something that you're doing. And sometimes you do a body scan, which is you just think about your head. If there's any tension, just recognize there's tension. And then scan as your eyes are closed, scan down to your face. Recognize if there's any tension, just breathe, kind of let it go. Then move down to your shoulders, and you're just thinking about this, right? And relax your shoulders. As you're doing that, it's an awareness, a focused attention on something that's happening right now. If I have people do a little mindfulness of the senses, I love this one. Take a walk sometime and try it. You may not be able to hit all the senses, but maybe you can. If you're at the beach taking a walk, you can. So here's how you do it. So think about the things you can see. hear, smell, taste, and touch. So if you're at the beach, for example, I love this example. The things I can see would be the waves crashing, the seagulls up above. I see sand, people running around and swimming. The things I can hear the waves crashing. I can hear the seagulls tweeting, whatever they screeching, people chatting. The things I can see, the things I can smell would be, that salty air. Maybe I have food with me and I can smell that. That's something I could taste as well. The things I can touch the cold water. I can feel the texture of the sand. I can feel the sand supporting my body if I'm sitting on the sand, or as I'm walking through the sand, my toes are going through there and feeling all of that, the sensation. And if you're just walking out and you're in a forest or in the city, there's a lot of things to focus on. So when you are focusing on the things that you can sense, you're not thinking about the worrisome things, and it gives you a little space and time just to chill. So how does that relate to your art? When you are painting something for the first time, for example, going through Christy's activity, you're in your left brain. This is the brain that learns the stuff, that's processing the things, you're selecting your colors, the textures you're going to put into your painting. It's not something that's rote that you've been doing forever. You're picking up your brushes. Which brushes am I going to use? Am I going to hold it loosely? I'm going to hold it at the tip. Here's the brush. Am I hold it at the base here or in the middle? Tight grip or loose grip? You're making a lot of decisions and you're very aware, and that is keeping you focused and present in your artwork. So that would be mindfulness. I do want to take a step further and go to flow state. Flow state is something you may have heard about or not. It's nothing complicated. It's actually pretty simple. I'm going to give you this example. So say you've been painting something for a while, florals or landscapes, and so you know what to do. You're not getting a tutorial. You're just doing intuitive painting, and you're getting lost in your painting. All of a sudden, you look up and it's been 2 hours since you started painting. You forgot that you were hungry. You forgot that you were tired. You forgot that you were cold. Man, you forgot to pee. And then you realize all of a sudden, I have all these sensations. That's the right brain flow state. So the right brain is very creative. It's visual. And I promise we shared last time in that book, Painting on the Right Side or Drawing on the Right Side of Your Brain, the author talks about how your right side, if you can tap into that, it's very creative. The left brain is very analytical and judgy, and it kind of keeps us from being creative because it doesn't know how, right? And it keeps us from feeling good. So that's that perfectionist piece. Left side can be helpful if you're being mindful and practicing in your art, but the right side, where time passes and you are not aware, you're just immersed in your artwork, that is a flow state. So those are two things. Again, like I said, there's a video on my channel if you want to check it out on how to utilize these in your artwork. Yeah, give it a little check it out. Let me know if you agree or disagree, all the things. So mindfulness, though, being able to do that in all of your aspects, not just in perfectionism, is going to help you take a break from trying to control everything in your life. Because guess what? Perfectionism, which is anxiety, it's hard. It's hard to live like that. It's exhausting, right? I mean, Christy, maybe you don't really know because that's not your struggle, but we all have different struggles, right? We're not all the same.
That's not my struggle in art, but that don't mean struggle in life.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. So you're normal. You're human. Fantastic.
And it's funny you brought up that walk on the beach because I walked every day.
Yeah.
And I was trying to figure out why it was so thoroughly relaxing to walk on the beach, even though I was exerting more energy because I was digging into the sand and all the things. But that nothing puts me into that mental state of awareness, but like good, like positive awareness.
Yeah.
Walk on the beach does. And I'm like, how can I recreate that? How can I? And then I realized, it's so funny you brought this is not planned.
Nope.
Is when I get into my flow state, I call it like the joy zone. You know, I always rename things that are already named. That is the closest thing when I get into my joy zone of art making, where I am less aware of, hunger, having to pee, a noise in the other space in my home. But I'm more aware, like at the beach, I'm very aware of the spray when the waves hit, very aware of the sound as I'm walking, and I'm very aware of the sand squishing under my feet. That puts me into such a space of relaxation and calm, just like when I'm painting. And because I am very easily able to tap into really looking at the grip on my brush, and how am I twisting the brush in between my fingers, and how much water, kind of like really focused on the weight of my brush when I have a certain amount of water on my brush. And that for me, mimics that ocean walk where I am hyper aware in my joy state, in my flow state, but only of certain factors.
I love that.
Yeah. So so good. Oh my gosh. Friends, are you with us? Are you still feeling like you're getting value out of this? I mean, I'm watching the count. Y'all ain't, you're not leaving. You're not leaving. I'm happy about it. So Myra says, I have tried Neurographics before and I just had to abandon it. Anyone with any suggestions? I think sometimes Neurographic art, this is just something that popped in my head. I'm not a big fan of like the heavy black marks, even though that's what I showed you today because it shows up really well on camera. But let me show you, that could be something that you're like, even your subconscious is just responding to. So I'm going to show you that you can also do the Neurographic, with your pencil. You don't have to make those strong, those little divots, those little thicker areas with a black pen. It can be easily done, recreated with a pencil, whether it's a softer or a harder pencil. And I would try this particular approach too, because maybe traditional neurographic art, like this stuff, is just too non-representational. That was my thing with it. I really like things to be a little bit more like, I'm not a big, like, super duper abstract, just geometry, shapes, geometric type person when it comes to painting. I like to have organic elements. So that would be my suggestions. If anybody in the comments has suggestions for maybe getting into neurographic art a little bit more, go ahead and share. We'd love to hear it. Can you go over a number 2 pencil with paint? Absolutely. Absolutely. I do it all the time. I mean, I'll kind of show you here on the side. This one I'm using an 8B. This is a very soft pencil, so it's going to be exaggerated effects because the graphite is really soft. So when I go over, if you're going in with a pastel watercolor, you're going to get some transfer between the graphite and the paint. Whereas with something that is, brighter, you're not going to see a lot of transfer, but it also has to do with friction. But absolutely, you can go right over top. Isn't that lovely? Actually, it's a very lovely effect when you see the watercolor seep into the nooks and crannies of your watercolor paper through the graphite. Really pretty. Love that. Jennifer says, Tammy, your advice has been helping me a lot. Yes.
Aww. Yay, I'm glad.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Wonderful.
Barum says, Tammy, your advice is amazing.
Wonderful.
Jennifer says, oh, what did I do here? Paula, I really enjoy your live chats together. Great team. I think so too. Love it. Thank you for saying so. All right. So friends, we have talked through so much today. Let us know if you have comments, team replay, questions. I mean, not comments. You have a lot of comments. I know you have comments. Let us know if you have questions. Let us know. We can answer them here live. And if you're team replay, I will, and Tammy will get the comments a little bit later on and answer them there as well. So here's the thing. We have another painting exercise we're going to get into. And it's a painting exercise hosted by Tammy, of course.
Yes.
Oh, excited about this one. So Tammy, why don't you explain a little bit For those who want to paint along live, what they're going to
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to rip rip something out of here because I'm going to use it as my example. So, and I'm going to do something that might make people feel nervous. It makes me feel nervous. I'm going to do it. I've got my wet painting and I'm just going to go like this because I need my notebook. So it's going to create an impression. It might make it look a little bit smeary. Who cares?
Yeah, who cares?
Does it matter? Who cares?
Who cares?
And you got to tell yourself that. So for those of you who aren't sure about paper and all the things, I purposely chose to use this notebook here. This is the Canson pulp paper. I think it's like 14, 15 bucks on Amazon. And it's my go-to if I'm not using cotton. I do my samples in here. And I could have used cotton today, but I was like, I'm going to go with the cheap stuff. You know, we have a cotton here and we have the pulp because we're not going for perfection. So let's just add this in as part of my art activity today. So what we're going to do first is we're going to write 5 strengths of ours first. Okay, 5.
Oh, okay.
5 strengths, but we're not going to use a pen or pencil. We're going to use a paintbrush.
Wait, what?
Because that's going to feel weird. So I just threw that in as we were painting. I was like, let's paint our 5 strengths.
Brush?
Yes. Yes, ma'am. So you're going to take, I've got a number 2.
Right.
I got a number 2. I've got Christy's number 2 here. I'm going to use that one. It's that lime green. We're going to write 5 strengths. So we're not going to do this whole painting here. This is just an example of like what we're going for. And I'm going to change it up and you guys are going to get uncomfortable. I hope, because that's the point. Let me tell you one thing. Just like, I'm going to tell you one thing. As a therapist, like I have to keep saying that. But as a therapist, when you're feeling anxious, it is a feeling that is going to come and go. So if you are willing, and when we're anxious, we want to avoid the thing that makes us anxious. But if we sit with it for a few minutes, our brain learns that we are safe, we are okay, and it calms down. So this is called flooding. This is not a scary thing because it's art, right? But it's called flooding. Like if you're afraid of a tarantula, the flooding experience would be you plop that sucker on your hand and you just sit there and wait. Okay, that's intense. But that's the idea of flooding. You flood your brain with this scary thing, as long as it's a safe thing, because it's safe to paint, right? We're going to flood our brain with some uncomfortable things today. All right. Enough talking. So, yes.
Uncomfortable but safe things.
Yes. Because, yeah.
This is what I'm talking about. Remember earlier I asked you what is an exercise that could help you kind of navigate this like thought, junky feeling, junky action into a safe thought, healthy thought, positive thought, better feeling, productive action. I feel like go to your safe space. Yeah. Go to your safe space. Know that your watercolor, your paper, it's just paper. It's just paint. Go let that be your safe space to go sit in uncomfortableness.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I am not a therapist.
That's fine.
I need to say that. Okay, go ahead.
That's okay. We can't be all the things.
No.
So, but yes, a safe space. Because I was just thinking, holding a tarantula may not be safe, probably, but I couldn't guarantee it, right? Or if you're afraid of, the dark and going into a dark alley and just trying to sit there with your feet, there's actual possible danger there.
Yeah, you might pass. I would pass out. I'm a little afraid of the dark.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's the thought. Like you're down in the basement as a kid, you're down in the basement, you got to turn off the light, then you run up the stairs. Oh my gosh, the boogeyman's going to grab my leg. And you're like 25 years old. So even still at 41, still have those thoughts. I don't have a basement though. So, okay. So yes, safe space. And I want you guys to think and remember as we're doing this, anxiety has no place in art. Perfectionism has no place in art. And if you find it, I did not wear this on purpose, but I have to illustrate it. And if you find it creeping into your art today, you have to say, nope, not today. Okay? Not today. I just put on this shirt because I didn't like how my bra straps were showing in my other one, so that's why I put it on. Just saying, but it worked out. I love it. Okay, so we're gonna do, I'm gonna make it easy. 3 to 5 things that are your strengths. And we're just gonna get into it. I talk a lot.
Okay,
Talk. So we're gonna take our
strengths.
Yeah. With a skinny paintbrush or whatever, and we're just gonna do it like on the corner somewhere. I'm not gonna tell you where. I'm gonna give you guys some autonomy here. So top corner, whatever. 5 things. And this is hard to write with if you've never written with a paintbrush. It's not the easiest, but I can do it. You can do it. All right. So I got a hair on there. Yeah. And my handwriting. Okay, see, and I have to check all of my thoughts now. I'm like, my handwriting's not the best. That's a thought that doesn't help me write better. I can say, you know what? I'm practicing. I'm getting better when I'm writing with a paintbrush. All right, so.
Go with a lighter color. It'll give you a little more confidence. Just a little tip.
There you go. As I dipped into a dark purple.
Or, and just be cray. Just, yeah.
Just do you. You do you.
Is that how you spell goofy?
Yeah.
Okay,
totally.
Good. And yes, strength.
And what?
I'm saying yes, being goofy is a strength. I'm able to be
open. Yeah.
I'm a big cheese ball.
It draws people in too.
It does something.
Oh yeah.
And I'm
Isn't it hard? Hard to think of sometimes.
In the chat. I love it. What else am I? What did you write?
Strong and listener. Yeah, Ooh. Share your strengths in the chat, guys. I want to hear them too.
Oh, yeah. Strengths. Share the strengths. Do it.
Listener.
On the verge of a song.
Sing it, girl.
What else am I? I'm loud. No, that's not a strength.
If you think it's a strength, you put it down.
I kind of do. You know why I think it's a strength?
Why?
Because I used to only be loud and use all of my projection, inner circle for most of my life. And I actually had to learn to like be fully myself with everyone. So
yeah. Adapting. I love that.
Like, I think I was ashamed of the volume of my voice.
And how did you get over that?
Oh, we're about to go deep here.
Share what you want.
No,
don't share if you don't want to.
Deep because it's problematic how I got.
Okay.
Some of you know that in the last 3 years, I was on a health journey and I lost 100 pounds and I've been maintaining for half that time. Like, so
amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing.
Yeah.
But I felt very much as living in a very large body for most of my adult life that the world didn't give me permission to be loud because I was taking up too much space. I told you we were going deep here. Deep.
Yeah, no, thank you.
And so as I dropped the weight, I shed a lot of that junk out. Like, I felt like, okay, now I can take up more space with my voice. And that sucks. Yeah. That sucks that I felt I couldn't take up the space before. So.
Yeah. And that's an issue with society and the way that people treat others. There's a lack of kindness and understanding and compassion and all the rules.
This is not about, that's not what this show is about. But I'll tell you what, even after I dropped 50 pounds, like, people would hold doors for me.
Wow.
so many doors slammed in my face, like on the regular, living in a very large body. It's unbelievable.
That's insane.
Just that one change I noticed as the weight came off. And I'm just sharing it because it's like, yeah, like literally I've had doors hit me in the face.
Wow.
And now I still marvel at just that one detail. So
yeah,
I'm proud.
Yeah, you should be. No, like you weren't given a voice or even notice as a full person. Thank you for sharing that. And that has to help us remind us, to always hold the door for everyone. Never know what they're going through, and that's just a symbolic thing, like hold the door, have the conversation, look people in the eyeballs, give them that dignity and that respect that you want.
Like, oh, she doesn't, she needs the exercise of opening that door with her arm. I'm not going to open, like what is the thought process? It's crazy. Anyway, not what it's about, but yeah, but I'm loud and that's a good thing. But see how like I didn't want to like admit that was a good thing.
Yeah. That was deep. Thank you for sharing that. Actually,
so deep.
I think all the things that are coming out in this thing today, there's things that we need to hear, or maybe others need to hear, and sharing openly. Like this is not a fake show today. We're here to tell the things.
So I'm goofy and I'm loud. Heavens. I'm very conscientious, but I don't want to spell it. I got it. Conscientious.
Yeah. English is hard.
It's so arbitrary in so many ways.
I know. I speak Spanish and it makes sense. Everything is pretty much pronounced how it looks. But English, it's a hot mess.
Lion hair heart, thank you very much. I saw your comment. Thank you. And thank you, friends, for helping me spell conscientious.
Oh, they helped you there. Nice.
Mary says she is emotionally high maintenance, making me a loyal friend and encouraging them to be themselves. I love those positives. That's amazing. Oh, Tammy, I have one for you, says GSD mom.
Yeah. Oh, hi. I know who that is.
Witty. She says witty.
Oh, witty. Oh, for me or for yourself?
I don't know. Maybe for you. You are witty.
Am I witty?
I think so. Look at that. Don't screw up your face.
No, I love that.
Okay.
I never would have thought that for myself. That's a compliment if you meant that for me. I'm going to write that down. I think I'm witty sometimes.
Good.
I don't know if it always comes out.
Are we doing 3 or 5?
I said 3 to 5. You can do 3. I just wrote them all. Because I like to follow the rules, and I set the rules at 3 to 5, so I'm following my own rules.
All right, I did 3.
Look at how deep that goes. Okay, we did our writing with our hand here with a brush, and now we're gonna try to like do some loose florals, kind of like this, with a twist. Okay, and we're going to try to make them wonky. So this is like, look at the petals. They're all pretty much even. So we're going to make some flowers. We're going to make them uneven. We're going to try to we're not looking for balance. We're just putting things on. We might leave extra white space. And if we do, that's okay. I want you guys to just like be comfortable with that. But here's the other twist, guys. Okay, you got your paintbrush?
I do.
You ready? Oh yeah, and we've got pens and pencils and things, so you can make marks and stuff.
Oh, we're mediaizing this thing?
Yes, we can do that. But like we're trying to make wonky, like unbalanced, don't like be so worried about the balance. But here's the other thing. Ready? We're gonna take our brush. Okay, now you're gonna transfer it to your other hand, your non-dominant hand, and now we're gonna paint. Okay? I know. I've never done this before, and like my heart is beating right now. Isn't that nuts? Why am I so nervous? Oh my goodness.
That's funny.
Me. So
my me draw with my left hands.
Yeah.
Yes.
Here we go. Here we go. And this means I have to transfer my paint on the other side. Oh my goodness.
I have some stuff in my little palette here.
Yeah.
I've got acrylic. I've got some gouache.
Yes, use your gouache, acrylic, whatever you got.
Now, did you say something about, or was I just dreaming this, that every petal should be a different material?
No, well, so that was something I had shared with you. It can be. It can be. Because like I'm kind of making it really like just nutty. So we're breaking all the rules. And it's okay if it's messy. Allow your hand. Your hand is going to get stuck in the paint and smear it. It's fine.
Yes.
We're going to create an ugly painting. That's our mindset. Not that that's like our purpose, but I'm saying allow yourself to create something that you may not find visually attractive and sit with that. We're just going to do all the things, okay? Sit with that. So it's a whole hot mess, but there's a point here. There's a point here. So I'm painting with my left hand, and that is not something that I do.
I'm painting.
It's going to be weird. This is going to be weird. Why'd I have to sing it? I don't know.
Okay. It's okay. It's
okay.
Slow down.
Yeah. Slowing down is probably good. So this would be not the flow state. This would be totally, the mindfulness state.
This is the mindfulness.
Yeah, it's a hyper focus. And I'm trying to twist the brush here. Maybe I won't twist the brush. Maybe I'll just do it this way. Just not even trying to get all the petals even. Now that one is actually pretty even. So I'm just going to make these a little bit bigger here. So I want you guys to also think like a 5-year-old, okay? How would a 5-year-old paint? They paint with their hands. That's another good one. They just put paint wherever. They don't care.
You said you had me at paint with your hands.
Yeah. We could do finger painting too. You can do it now.
There
you go. There you go.
This is called pigment paste, and I've been meaning to use it and try it out.
I'm going to take a charcoal pencil now.
Now, that is very... Oh, pigment paste dyes your finger. Okay. Whatevs.
So now look at this one. He's got some weird thing happening. I don't know what's going on there.
What's that?
It's a flower. Come on. You can't tell? It's a weird flower. It's a flower. So your brain wants to follow the rules. I actually have a video on that too. And so how to break, I think it was 8 things I wish I didn't know about watercolor painting. And yeah, I wish I didn't know, the rules. The rules are there to instruct us, but they also make us nervous because we feel like we can't deviate from them. And so I was like, here are the rules and here's how to break them, or why you cannot follow them sometimes. And so we're just breaking some rules today. Just going to do some weird stuff. And so your brain might be like, oh, because I'm doing this with my left hand, and that's hard enough anyway. But then, not following the rules of balance and that, can make your body have a little bit of anxiety. And that's okay. I don't really know where I'm going with this, but this is actually more soothing than I thought it would be with my left hand.
It is very soothing. Carol, that is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
She's asking if it's pigment paste applied with my right hand. And so I'm showing that, yes, it is. I can't bring up, there we go. Yeah. And that's what my finger now looks like.
So we are I keep wanting to reach with my right hand. Yep. My dominant hand. And it's like, no.
Ooh. I just did a little spray bottle action.
You what?
I did a little
sprayed.
With my left hand, I will add. I want to go over my goofy. Ooh, look what it's doing. I just want to point out, you might find yourself some happy accidents in this situation like I just did. Look what it just did to my goofy.
That looks cool.
Right? I'm going to go see that. So you might just find some moments that are really interesting and unexpected in your uncomfortableness. I think that's what's great about a mindfulness exercise. I've never really thought about the difference of a mindfulness exercise. For me, sometimes, often, my mindfulness exercises turn into that joy flow state.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
exactly.
but I like knowing that there is actually a difference at the start.
Mm-hmm. And the cool thing about being mindful is that you can't think about anything else. And especially with this is forcing you to be in the moment. Okay. It's forcing you to think about all the things. And so maybe, work this into your practice a little bit of, your non-dominant hand and seeing how it gets better. Not that we're looking for better, but kind of, we do like to practice and see improvement in our skills. And it's just kind of cool to see how your brain is growing. Your brain is learning. Because guess what? When you first started painting, you had to learn all the muscle memory,
Yeah.
the fine, motor details, and being able to control your water and your brush. And now all those have gone out the window because you've never practiced, most likely, with your non-dominant hand.
Right.
But if you keep doing this, it's going to get easier and easier. And like I say, it's all about practice. And that's just a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can teach ourselves mostly anything if we have a desire.
Absolutely.
So,
Oh, so cool. So cool.
so if you came into this live, you guys, with any type of worries, concerns, these activities are hopefully, it gives you a reprieve from those thoughts and feelings that overwhelm us. And as you are practicing, self-care, which is what this is, as you're practicing painting, you cannot physically think about the bad stuff that you've been thinking about all day. And it gives your body like that really well-deserved break. Because your nervous system, if you're frustrated, if you're nervous, if you have trauma, if you have worries, your nervous system is kicked in and it is full force. And it's unhealthy to walk around in life with your nervous system on edge. And so that's why it's important to do calming things that soothe you. Even bilateral tapping, which is, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that. It's just literally like basically giving yourself a hug
I
and then
have.
you tap. Yeah, your left hand, your right hand, your left hand, your right hand, and you're engaging of the two hemispheres of your brain like this, like this. And it's very, and you close your eyes and it's
Really? Does it
very
really
soothing.
good?
Feels good. Do you have a, but you just gotta do it for a while. And I don't honestly know the whole, science behind it. I haven't researched that, but that is a piece that can help to calm you. Also, if you have a medicine ball, bouncing on that is so soothing for me.
Okay.
Just bouncing up and down and up and down. That repetitive motion.
Okay.
If you've ever seen kiddos that have sensory issues, and sometimes they'll do the rocking, they'll rock back and forth, like
Yes.
rocking your child in a rocking chair. It's very soothing and calm, repetitive, just like white noise when you're listening to that if you're trying to sleep. It's very soothing. So, something to add in. Yeah, bouncing on a medicine ball. Who would have thought?
What a thought.
Yeah.
I love. Friends, are you still with us? I see you sharing so much. Just it's like we're at a coffee shop with a group of painters and friends, and that's how it feels, and I adore that. There's so much sharing going on. There's so much advice being given. You're lifting each other up. Just so interesting. So pigment paste, friends, I'm very new to it. What I understand is that it is a concentrated form of a particular pigment. This one's quinacridone magenta. And it's meant to be added. It can be added to acrylic. It can be added to watercolor. It can be watered down. Friends, if you have more information about pigment paste, I've only ever bought one little bottle of it. Let us know in comments, but that's my understanding.
I think I had a little too much caffeine this morning because my hand's a little shaky. But you know what? I've had people ask me before, listen, I don't know if I can paint because I have shaky hands.
Oh.
And there was one person in particular, and she's like, I'm older, my hands shake. I don't know if I can do this. And I said, listen, I want you to embrace whatever your hands are doing because it's going to be, and it'll help you with your style. There are styles because listen, for example, listen, I'm like, listen now. For example, like when we're painting a branch. I know you're listening. When we're painting a branch, do we want it to be stick straight? It looks weird. I actually prefer my stems and my branches to be kind of wonky. I always say wonky and just like a little wiggly. If you have a little shake in there, you got a little natural wonky branch. Rewrite the narrative. Your art style is going to change. Maybe you like abstract better. Putting on those geometric shapes, like using my hand to talk with my paintbrush, and just embrace what your body can do. You know, there's people that have said, well, it hurts my hand, my arthritis to paint. You know, maybe you need a brace, or maybe you can only paint for 5 minutes or 2 minutes. Do what you can. Have you ever picked up a paintbrush with your toe? I just thought of this. I don't know. That's something to try. That'd be
Ooh.
kind of interesting. Like, I know there are people who, because they don't have the ability to paint with their hands, or sometimes, you know, they were not born with that part of their body and they paint with their feet. And it's amazing. The body, the brain work together to do incredible things. It's practice, guys.
Love it.
Bob Ross says, shaking hands. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you,
Isn't that
Gina.
cool?
Love
I love it.
that.
I don't know about y'all friends, but this exercise is it's a little bit of everything for me right now. It feels like exactly what I needed at exactly the right time.
Mm.
Hope it is that for some of you, for all of you, but I hope that you're painting with us, or
Yeah.
you're making that commitment to yourself. You're setting that timer to go ahead and paint through this, because notice I got more bolds. I started adding more things, more traits.
Mm-hmm.
Because early on I was nervous and I was kind of like, I don't know, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm joyful because I do believe that is a strength of mine. So yeah, I think this is something you really need to set aside time for yourself to embark on. And I say embark on because these exercises are quite the journey indeed. And I do want to say something. Don't feel bad about yourself if, like me, clearly I am feeling a pull to making something representational, right? I did flower leaves. I'm clearly starting to get, mindful about my composition a little bit. You know what I mean? So don't feel bad. Like, if that is keeping you in the mindful moment here, then do it, you know? So it all flows back to, in my humble opinion and in my experience as a non-professional in the mental health world, it all flows back to do what keeps you doing the thing that makes you joyful. Keep doing the thing, keep using the technique, keep using the practice that keeps you coming back to the safe space of your painting table, right? Doesn't matter if it's realistic, fine, great, keep doing that. If you do wrangle joy and feel safer when your painting table is clean before you paint, then do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to take a moment to say that. So I want to share a few things about how to, because I talked earlier about building kind of best practices, that we have to, even though we're trying to be for your spirits, we're trying to be the anti-perfectionists, that requires some new habit building, right? And so I mentioned that a little bit earlier. Of course, my iPad with all my notes just died. Super! I'm so excited.
Check my phone.
I'm super.
Oh boy.
I'm gonna unplug this, replug it in. But
it happens. Technology will fail us, and that's okay. We move on.
So
I'm gonna plug in my phone too, in case.
Yeah. So I have one of these memorized because I've talked about it before. And hopefully you won't switch off when you hear me talk about it again, because my camera just moved a whole bunch because I'm going to frame it a little differently. So some of the habits that I think you need to have in place to become more of an anti-perfectionist, you need to be ready. You need to be ready. And one of the ways that I have learned over the years to be ready, and if you have my book, the Art for Joy's Sake, Free Spirited Watercolor, you may have run into it. There's this little baby tiny section here, early in the book, little baby section here about the magic cup of magic, I've called it. And you can even see, I feel so strongly about this. I've talked about this before, and I wanted to give you a couple ideas today of how to build these magic cups around your space. And the reason that this combats perfectionism is because one of the things that we have anxiety over, I have found, just the general population of beginner and, you know, intermediate and even professional artists, is that we feel this desire, this drive, this requirement to have the perfect supplies ready anytime we feel a spark of inspiration. And that is so opposite to entering this joy state, this flow state. So one of my ideas, as you know, is to have a cup of some kind. I'm trying to grab one of my cups, right? Get a cup, fill it with the supplies, fill it with here, this is my cup of scissors. So we're going to remove the scissors because we don't need those. Literally grab a pretty cup, something that when you look at it, you smile, right? And I want you to pop some paper in there. I don't care if you have to curl the paper to get it in there. It's in there and it's usable. All right. Grab a palette, get it in there. Grab a pencil. If you have a favorite, whatever it is, grab your favorite eraser. Maybe not, maybe no eraser. We don't want to get into the eraser loop. Grab another brush. That is as simple as that. Make yourself a couple of these for inside the house. Another thing that you can do for the car, okay? And the thing is about this magic cup, magic container, magic tray, magic pouch, whatever it is, the idea is to make them quickly and to get them in places where you are often living your life, okay? Get different materials in here, like use the backside of maybe paintings that weren't your favorite, get that in here. Just make sure you have everything you need. And the nice thing about the cup format, friends, is that all this can come out to make your art, fill your cup with water, and it's your water container, right? Love that, love that, love that, love that. Make every cup a little different if you want. The cup for the living room chair versus the cup for the kitchen versus the cup for your nightstand, right? Maybe even add a little water brush. You know, the brushes that already have the reservoir. I don't have one right here. You don't want to have water at the ready. Have a water brush in here. Make each one of these different, get them around the house. For me, I have one in my living room. I have one at front porch, one that's right as I walk out to my patio. So I can just pick it up, swipe it, grab it. The kids are going to play on the trampoline, whatever it may be. Another format, which is great for travel, make sure you take your Art for Joy's Sake brush set pouch, Free from Fear pouch, or whatever pouch you have. And then fill that with your paper, your paint, your palette, so on and so forth. Make it small, easily grabbable. It can fit in your glove compartment. It can fit in the back of your seat, that little pocket back there, right? Fit in your trunk, whatever it is. I actually wouldn't keep it in the trunk because you'd have to get out of the car to get it if you had a spark of inspiration. And you know where I'm going with that. So a pouch is also a fantastic format. Another great format is a tray of some kind. This is super cute. Better if you don't have kids because it makes it super easy access for the kiddos to get their hands on. But some kind of tray. I love the tray because it can hold a lot more. And I also love the tray because it's just pretty as well. Buy little wooden trays on Amazon. I'm a big proponent if you have the resources, and if it gives you joy for your surroundings to be pretty, for your art making items to be pretty, make them pretty. If it gives you joy, and it does give me joy. So,
Love it.
I'm just reading comments a little bit. So that is my first recommendation, friends, in how to build better habits to become an anti-perfectionist in your artwork, is that magic cup. So, so, so important. And just a couple new formats for you to consider. The next one, and this, again, I touched on this a little bit, friends, and this is truly if you only, if this will bring you joy, and if being super tidy is a requirement of your joy, then this one's not for you. But I would explore the idea of not tidying up before you paint. I want you to explore that idea of not tidying up before you paint, and here's why. Because, well, I want to go back to that Jasmine Star quote from earlier on, where it was like, perfectionism is just a form of procrastination. And again, this isn't for everyone, but sometimes cleaning up your table to the point that, obviously, if I wanted to paint right now, I would need to do a little bit of tidying. Maybe. Actually, I wouldn't. Let me explain. Right now, I have this tray. I had a palette. Open up the palette, feel a spark, get into it, paint. Boom, done. You don't have to move all this stuff. I don't have to move these scissors. I don't have to. I can paint. It may not be the most comfortable for my wrist at the moment, but it gets me started. It starts the momentum being built. Then when I'm more into it and less likely to flee my beautiful painting time, being distracted by something else, then I might rearrange so that my wrist is a little more comfortable. But get in the habit of not tidying up before you paint. And again, if tidying up is a requirement for your joy, then by all means, skip this recommendation. And the last one is quite simple. Get in the habit of painting on the back of old paintings. I feel some with the paintings that we don't love so much, there's this like resistance to painting on the back of them, that it's somehow, I don't know what it is, but I've heard so many folks being like, I just started painting on the back of my painting. It's so free.
So many. Yeah.
Back of your painting. It's very freeing. It's also a great way to avoid throwing out, doing the whole, I don't like this painting, I'm a failure, I'm going to tear it up and throw it away. No, you put it in the paint on the back of it pile, right? So I love that. Those 3 habits are my go-tos. They are something that are now ingrained in me. They are a part of me. They are part of my lifestyle of non or anti-perfectionism. So there we go. Tammy, do you have any habits? I'm putting you on the spot. This is not.
Yeah. I know. To not be a perfectionist. I mean, obviously my brain has to tell me not to be. Like, to me, that's the biggest thing.
Sure.
I do like a clean workspace, but usually I'm also filming something. It's interesting enough to break the habit. So for a person who does film their art and feels like, everything is content, everything is content. Don't forget to film it. Don't forget to film it, right? That little stupid jingle. And I was like, oh yeah, gotta film it. Gonna make a sample. Gonna pay for fun. Gotta do real,
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm trying now to say, actually, you're sucking the joy out of life. Just paint. No one's gonna see it. If you love it, you can make a video later, So that's something that I've been trying to do to like not get me to be like, and it has to be perfect. Oh my goodness. Yeah, you put me on the spot. What habits? I think, stuff like trying not to follow the rules. Rotating your paper. That's a rule. Don't do this. No. Shut up. Why can't you rotate your dumb paper? But I did hear you say something valid, Christy, and I've quoted you a lot, because you said it does develop good skills to be able to paint from one direction. I agree with that. I think that is valid.
Memory, but I think there's a time and a place for that.
Yeah.
It builds a more of an awareness of different types of strokes you can make if you're
Mhm.
not turning your paper, but also giving yourself the freedom to turn the paper so your hand is comfortable, wrist is comfortable, less fatigue in the fingers. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. I actually probably wrote some things down. My brain can't work right now because it's, it's been 2.5 hours. So.
I know. We're getting there.
So what I did, right, like make an ugly painting, which is that mindset. Okay. Tell yourself this is practice. It's supposed to be fun. With every brush stroke, I'm getting better. There's no room for perfectionism in art. Those are the three things those are my staples. Make a mess. Allow yourself to make a mess. And then when you're done, you take your paintbrush, you dip it in your color, and you splatter. Oh goodness, I've never splattered with my left hand with one hand. It's so easy. Look at that. Boom, boom, boom. So like splatter for me, it can be messy and that makes people uncomfortable. Also making backgrounds. Like I did that here where you just painted it and now we're going to take a clean damp brush and we're just going to activate. We're going to move around and that paint is going to bleed into that water. That helps. Do you have something there?
I dropped something, but you said paint background. So I'm like,
yeah.
Nice segue. But seriously, backgrounds. This was something I made. Wasn't sure if I was going to get to, but obviously I have a book where I have all the backgrounds painted for you. This is a great way to avoid perfectionism. Yeah, it'll be linked below. It's out and it's up on the screen. But seriously, I have another exercise where you don't need my book to do this. But paint little squares over and over and then fill them with stuff, right? So paint your background of squares. I love that. So paint your own backgrounds that then maybe later on down the road will turn into other things.
Yeah.
They don't have to be the thing now. All they have to be is a background. We'll get you into your start mindfulness, start in your mindful state and get you into your joy zone today. Then later on, look, you can come back and doodle inside of them. This one I turned into, this is how it started. This is where we're at,
Cool.
So yeah, paint backgrounds. Sorry.
No worries. Well, I think that's why watercolor is so good, for people who struggle with this because you can't control a lot of it, especially when you're starting and you don't know how much water and you put too much water and then the paint goes whoosh and it spreads all over and then you're trying to like lift the color and then the color is getting muddy and it's mixing muddy colors, right? I used to say, I don't know why, if you mix like cool and warm colors, you get mud. That's not true. If you mix the three primaries together. So if you already have a secondary color like purple, which has blue and has red, and then you mix yellow in there, you got blue, red, and yellow, and then you get mud, right? Be okay with that. Allow it to be muddy. What's the problem? Tell yourself that. Loud can be strength. Oh, I love that. I love that Lori just said that. Use all the brushes. Also, grab your brushes. I would say to avoid perfectionism, do a lot of exercises. Grab all your brushes. I don't have all my brushes here, but I'm just going to grab some that are here. This is also Jen and Rainey's brush. Look at how long that is. Here's the big guy. It's a beautiful brush.
That's so long.
So long. Like it's twice as long as my brushes. So anyway, but it's a beautiful, lovely, lovely blooms brush, filbert. But take all your brushes, play with the strokes, use all your colors. Use all the shapes, basic shapes, circles, squares, triangles, rectangles, ovals, all that stuff, and play around. Play. As you get comfortable with what your brushes do, with the pressure, the light pressure, the heavy pressure, all that. If you're feeling anxious, just play. Abstract, whatever. Play. I'm a kid. Use your hands.
Yes, friends.
All the things.
And invigorating, enlightening. And on that note of just play, I want to just say to you today, rewatch this, have it playing when you're cooking dinner, listen to us. Who knows what else you'll pick up. Give yourself some incredible promises today. Set some alarms with really good titles so you don't forget what you're going to paint, what you promised yourself to paint, right? There's so much. Get some paper out that has paintings on one side, put them in a pile for the next time you feel the spirit moving you, the creative spirit moving you. There's so much that we can do to change the narrative. Mm-hmm. There's so much that we can do. And hopefully today, that is what we've done. We've given you some tools. We've given you inspiration. We've given you the realization that you have a community, which you have here. You have a community. So friends on replay, keep those questions coming. We're here for you. And friends, if you want to continue this idea of play, this idea of mindfulness exercises, of hyper focus on certain aspects of your art making that will then get you into that flow state, that joy zone, as I call it. There's going to be a video popping up here on the screen real soon. And I want you to watch that one next. And I want you to work on this particular project. It's a really quick one. And I think it's a perfect follow-up for this video. And until next time, I wish you happy painting. Mwah. I don't know if Tammy has a sign off, but go for it, girl.
I think the bottom line I want you guys to remember is that the last time we said you are enough, you're valuable, and perfectionism is just, it's the lie that seeps in that says we are not good enough. Don't let society tell you that. Don't let your parents tell you that, or your spouse, your significant other, your children, your whoever it is in your life that might be. You can set boundaries and remind yourself you are good enough. Your art is good enough. Let's keep practicing. We can get better, but the bottom line is we're going to have fun. We're going to take care of ourselves, and we're going to grow in the process. Okay? So I would say to you guys, happy painting and happy mental health as well.